Camp in Flowery Branch, Penix was 4 of 8 when he returned to 11-on-11 work. Tua was 0 for 3 and was with ones in scout team work. And here is Kevin Stefanski breaking down how this week is going to go.
We'll treat this like a regular season schedule and covered that with the players this morning. So we'll be into our regular season work. So, for instance, today is Wednesday to us and our players, and I want them to get a feel for what the meetings are like during the regular season, what the practice schedule is like. We'll give them some game plan stuff on Miami, do some work on Miami. Now, there's a bunch of stuff that you'll install on offense, defense, and special teams for this game that you won't show in the game, but I want the guys to get used to, hey, here's a game plan, here's a new concept, here's a new pressure, here's a new coverage that we're running. We're going to practice it the next few days and just get the rhythm of that's what happens in the season.
It's interesting, man. That's there's a couple tidbits in there that are I would love to know like what those are. Like, you know what I mean? He's like, there's things we've installed, but we're not going to run in the preseason, but we would install them. Okay, cool. I'd love to know what that is because that's going to be really interesting stuff. And yeah, this is always that point in the year where these guys kind of break camp a little bit or get to move home, and all of a sudden that schedule becomes more like you want to practice throughout the year. So it's intriguing days as a guy in that locker room.
I don't know. I don't know where the excerpt came from. I guess someone wrote an article, and everybody has an article or a blog these days. But somebody wrote something about they've cut off access to some of the reporters, and it hasn't been this way all year. And it's clearly they don't want Penix to, if he looks bad, they don't want people to be able to record it or whatever. And I tweeted and was like, well, not trying to, as a conspiracy theorist, it's really probably just the fact that it's a regular season type atmosphere, the way they're treating it. It's a dry run for what a regular season practice would be. And then I hadn't even known that, I had not heard that cut about Stefanski saying they were actually installing stuff that they were probably going to use in season, which kind of changes it and it just shows you that they're really trying to make this is dress rehearsal as they can for the regular season. And I like the fact that they're doing that. It's been one of our biggest complaints about the last two head coaches here, that they just did not want to do any it felt like the preseason work in the week leading to and in the game seemed to be a lot more lax, Yeah.
I would imagine in these pressers with Kevin Stefanski, going from last year to this year, the media has to change up how they approach a little bit differently because they are trying to get so much information out of Kevin Stefanski, but he is tight-lipped. He will not speculate on whether Michael Penix will start week 1 or not.
Sure, I can't speculate on those type of things. I'm really, I want to really stay today with Mike and see how he does in practice. That's where I'll keep my focus.
What percentage of this decision do we think is Kevin Stefanski's? Like, is it 3/4 his decision? Is it 50% his decision? Is it 100%? I don't know. I was thrown that question by somebody yesterday, and they were saying this is Matt Ryan's decision. I'm like, absolutely not. Matt's not going to go that far. Now, do I think that he'll be a sounding board? Yes. And then it needs to be an organizational decision because this has a lot to do with the future of the organization and draft picks and everything else. And I understand that. I'm not saying that there's not input from other places, but I would have to imagine that 3/4 of this decision at least is going to be Kevin Stefanski.
I'm not sure why people think that it's his decision that is just now being made. And I go back to it's twofold for me. For one, I think that they sat down way before training camp and had organizational meetings, and they talked about what Matt was a part of. His decision, no, but he was a part of the conversation. I don't believe that anything right now is being, I'm going to make this decision and then you make this decision. That kind of all leads to what we heard the problem was years ago or last year and years leading into last year, where it was like there was no real like everybody was on their own page and there was not one prime thought process for the organization as a whole. I believe they sat down and said, here's what we want to look at and here's how we're going to handle this. And basically Tua did nothing to make you go, with plan B. I think they had plan A and plan B, and Tua didn't change it. And so I think plan A was always to get Michael Penix healthy, and then if he comes out and plays wonderful, we'll start the season with him. Like, I've always thought that that's kind of where they wanted, because that to me was what made the most sense.
I think that I tend to agree with you, but I do think that there's a hiccup in there where we didn't really know when he was going to be healthy. You know what I mean? Like that, I would have to think they took that into effect as well. It's like, when is the doctor going to clear him? And so that has to be part of the conversation as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's that there's so many ripple effects from the next week of practice, or however many days, 3 days, 4 days, over the next couple of days, and how they play this Friday.
Or is the hiccup that they thought he would be healthy sooner, that he would be cleared earlier?
That's my point, is that like you could have gone in with plan A,
Yeah.
and you probably had to adjust along the way and kind of start thinking more heavily about plan B, whichever one that was. And look, you brought Tua in here for a reason. There's no doubt about that, but we've said it all along that Michael Penix has got to be the main focus in figuring out what you have there and building off of that.
We do have to bring up a name that everyone has been talking about since Saturday. Kevin Stefanski did address Jack Strand, said he's going to be practicing with the 2s and 3s, but also went into how they expect him to prepare like a starter.
Yeah, I think with all of our guys, everyone prepares to be the starter, prepares to be the one. I don't care what position you play on and what part you are on the depth chart. Now, having said that, obviously we work with our young guys and want to make sure that we put all of them, Jack included, through a process and make sure that they are getting the proper things down when it comes to understanding systems, understanding defense, or what have you. So he's doing everything we're asking him to do, but I'm not going to start. We're not going to put those type of things out there for our guys to worry about. He's got to keep his focus on the day to day.
Bo, you and I were having this conversation a minute ago, and there's something I think you and I probably disagree on. You think that Jack Strand's going to be the third quarterback and be on the 53?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know that there's a place for him on the 53, and I think that's going to be difficult. And here's why I say that. If he is part of your future plan, I'm not so sure, at least for week one, that he doesn't have to be your backup quarterback. If you make him the backup quarterback as a 2 in week one at cut time, and you want him to clear, right, so you can put him on the practice squad and don't want anybody else to pick him up, I'm not so sure that you don't make him the number 2 and put him on the 53 so that you don't have to risk him going to the P squad, because I don't see them keeping 3 quarterbacks on the active roster.
I do because this is why. I mean, look, I don't think you're going to risk. He's not ready. Let's just be real. He's not ready. I understand it. I'm a huge fan of him from what I've seen so far on and off the field. But if you, having watched the game with someone that knows a lot more about that position than I do, you could see little things, what he little mistakes he made or little things he did, and I'm privileged like that in a way, and I understand it. But he's not ready to start, and I don't think he's ready to be a backup. I think it's a lot, especially
I agree.
A defense like Pittsburgh. I also don't think they're going to get by with throwing him on the practice squad like you. I just don't. I think there's enough teams that are out there that feel good about where they're at, and they're like, hey, we'll throw a development out there, and we can carry 3 quarterbacks. Therefore, I believe that you would go in the smartest plan with whoever is quarterback, whether it's Penix or it's Tua, is to have one of those guys, like all 3 of those guys on the roster, or Cooper Rush and Penix. So to me, it's either Penix, Cooper Rush, and Strand, or Penix, Tua, and Strand. But I wholeheartedly believe you're keeping 3 quarterbacks. It also makes sense from how these guys have. Tua is very, his injury and his concussion thing, to me, is way scarier than the knee thing. To me, like, his injury is a lot scarier to me because he takes a bad hit, and sometimes they're not even really bad hits when you've had that many concussions. It can just be the slightest thing, and you're out a month.
Yeah.
Well, Jack Strand, I mean, he's garnered a lot of attention. Pat McAfee, we were talking about it earlier in the studio. He was even talking about him. Is this just one of those camp stories that we're not going to remember really by week 5?
I'm not, and this is how I felt about all the conversations we've had about quarterbacks. I'm not ruling anything out. I haven't, and I think that Bo and I both kind of usually see along these lines is it's like, all right, let's stop being ridiculous. That's absurd. But some of the moves you've made at quarterback of the last few years, I'm not ruling anything out. And if you can find your own version of, who's a undrafted quarterback that was good, like Kurt Warner, if you can find your version of that, then great.
You could have said Dave Archer.
Well,
remember,
touché.
he was an undrafted guy that came in here and was on the roster for a couple of years and then was starting for Bart.
Yeah, I was just trying to think down the list of quarterbacks that were low draft picks or undrafted that won Super Bowls and you know what I mean?
Yeah, that list is very short.
Very short. But like I said, if you can find that version of that, then great. And I'm not ruling anything out at this point. If the conversation about them trading for somebody was going to happen, fine. Go trade for somebody. If you think that that's the way forward, go find your Malik Willis or whoever, go find your Trey Lance. I don't know.
I would say too is I think we might need to stop talking about what they've done in previous years because none of those people are here. And I'm not saying that's a you thing, but how teams do things is always a little bit head-scratching at times because we don't know every single thing that they know. We don't see everything. We don't talk to these guys. We're not in the meeting rooms. All of it, health, everything. But this is a completely new thought process, and it's honestly going to be hard to predict what they do with the roster, with some of these decisions they have to make because we've never seen these decision makers make these decisions at this point.